Let's move on to requirement B. Upgrade My Skill Limited opted to apply the concentration test for the purchase of the training assets from Training Force Limited in terms of IFRS 3 B7A. Discuss in terms of IFRS 3 B7B if the concentration test is met or not. Conclude if this acquisition results in acquisition of a business or not. 7 marks, 1 easy mark, communication skills. Therefore, how much do we need to write? Guys, if you look at this, remember 1 sentence, properly, theory, applied, 1 mark. Therefore, plus minus 7 sentences. As always, look at the left side of your screen for me. We need to plan. What do we need to do? We need to identify our theory. Now, they've indicated to us that we need to apply B7B IFRS 3. Therefore, you open this. It should be properly underlined to help you. Second, you need to look at the scenario and then you need to apply the given theory to the scenario. And number 3, your easy marks, guys. You need to identify if the concentration test is met or not, and based on that, identify if this will be a business or not. Look at this, guys. Already 1, 2 easy marks, and then 3 your communication skills. Therefore, if you look at the very, very easy marks available, guys, this will already be 3 out of the 8. Therefore, go for your easy marks. Right. Now, let's refer to the given scenario before we look at the paragraphs. In the given scenario, I'm going to read through this again. Bear with me. UMS purchases training assets from Training Force Limited. The acquired set of activities and assets include 1, the specialized learning management system. Therefore, we have our LMS. Training equipment, we have the equipment, and a training center, which is obviously a building on a piece of land. Right. The training equipment can be used at any training venue and is not fixed to the training center of Training Force Limited. Second paragraph, the purchase of the learning management system has a dual purpose. They indicate to us here, guys, that they can use the learning management system either for the training of UMS, or they can sell this based on a monthly subscription to other entities to upload their training content and make use of the learning management system. UMS will be able to add all relevant details. Okay, guys, I have explained this to you. Then the last sentence of this paragraph. To date, Training Force has not yet signed any monthly subscription contracts with customers. Therefore, there is no revenue relating to the LMS. The specialized learning management system requires an organized workforce that has the necessary skills, knowledge, and experience of the system. Each of the assets acquired has a similar fair value. Right, this is important to us because remember, we need to identify if the fair value is significantly contributed by the group of similar assets or the single identifiable asset. Then UMS do not acquire any employees, other assets, other processes, or other activities. Before the acquisition date, Training Force discontinued providing training due to the owner falling ill and had to cease all training activities of the company. Right, on a new page, indicate that this is your part B. Now, this is our IFRS 3 B7B paragraph. Right, guys? Yours should be properly highlighted and underlined. I know this is busy, but this is still from our lecture in terms of the definitions. Right. If you look at this, look at the right side of your screen for me. I'm going to make use of green. We first have to identify if there is a single identifiable asset. Remember, what is identifiable? It should be separability criteria, separately recognized from goodwill, or there should be a contractual, legal criteria, right? Second step, we need to identify if there is a group of similar identifiable assets. Step 3, we need to look at the fair value, where we identify if the fair value of the gross assets acquired is concentrated by the group of similar identifiable assets. And then we need to conclude if our answer is yes, the concentration test is met, and this will be or this will not be a business. If our answer is no, the concentration test is not met, and we need to refer to B8 to B12D for further guidance. Right, now we need to apply the principle, the theory, to the scenario. You will identify on the right side of your screen that I have included the steps that we need to apply. Now, when we look at step number 1, we need to identify if this is a single identifiable asset included in the acquisition of the assets and the activities and assets. We have our LMS system, guys. If we look at this, this is a single identifiable asset. Why? They are able to use this asset to sell on a monthly subscription basis to other customers. They are able to use this for UMS itself. But the fact that this asset is standing on its own, they are able to use this intangible asset on its own. Then we have our equipment. And important, they've indicated to us that training equipment can be used at any training venue. Therefore, this can be separated and stand on its own in terms of all of the other assets. This is not linked to the building. Right. Then number 3, we have the building and the land. Now, in terms of the building and the land, this can be seen as one asset, you will remember. But if you also look at this, guys, the fact that the equipment can stand on its own, the LMS system can be used on its own, this is also a separately identifiable asset. But guys, each of them on their own are separately identifiable. Okay, now we need to write this down. Right, I've included that the LMS can be sold for monthly subscriptions. There is no need for the building or the equipment. And then that the building and the equipment can be used on its own separately. Therefore, the LMS, the equipment, and our land and building, each of this will be single identifiable assets. Remember, this is our step number 1. Step number 2, now we need to identify if this is a group of similar identifiable assets. If we look at the information provided in terms of the scenario, we have identified that the LMS system is an intangible asset. And when we look at the equipment and the land and buildings, we are able to identify that this will be property, plant, and equipment. Therefore, this is not of the same class. We need to write this, that we now know that the LMS will be an intangible asset and that the building and the equipment will be recognized as PPE. Guys, the land and build, or the land portion will be in land and the building portion will be in building. Therefore, we are able to identify that this is not in the same class. Okay, now you will remember if we refer to the theory, we have identified in E at the bottom of the page, and I'm going to make use of red. When assessing whether the assets are similar, an entity shall consider the nature of each single identifiable asset and the risks associated with managing and creating outputs from the assets. Therefore, if we now look at this is different assets. Therefore, we are able to identify that these assets will not have the same risks Therefore, we now know that this is not a similar group of identifiable assets, right? Number 3, we need to look at our fair value. Now, they've indicated to us that each of the single identifiable assets has similar fair values. Okay, guys, therefore, they've indicated to us that the LMS will have the same fair value as the equipment, as the building. Right. Now, what does this mean? That if we look at our principle, remember, in terms of B7B, the concentration test is met if substantially all of the fair value of the gross assets acquired is concentrated in a single identifiable asset or group of similar identifiable assets. We have identified that this is not a group of similar identifiable assets, and the fair value is not included or concentrated to a single asset, because all of these assets has the exact same value, and we are able to identify that substantially all of the fair value of the assets acquired are not concentrated in the group of assets. Now, what does this actually mean? Now, let's make use of a very, very basic example. Let's say, for example, the fair value is 300. Our LMS has a fair value of 100, the equipment 100, and the building 100. Therefore, if we look at this, the total here is 300, right? But if we only look at the LMS, this is 33.3% of the fair value, right? If we only look at the equipment, 33.33% and 33.33%, right? We have identified that this is not a group, remember. Therefore, we can't take the total 300,000 because it's not a group. Therefore, we are able to identify that this 300,000 is not concentrated in that asset. It's not concentrated due to that asset. It's not due to that asset. Okay, guys? Now we need to remember to conclude that our concentration test is not met. And if the concentration test is not met, we need to refer to IFRS 3 B8 to B12D to determine if the assets acquired will be a business or not.